Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We have an unboxing slash preview for you here of the Russian Campaign, original 1974 edition, game designed by John Edwards and just released from Compass Games. So this is basically a new and slightly revised, but not really revised, but true to the original Jedco edition of the Russian Campaign. Obviously, Russian Campaign is an all-time classic. It was later released in an edition, I think more will be familiar with it, from Avalon Hill. This is a revision, not of the Avalon Hill edition, but of the original Jedco edition. So a lot of folks have been pretty excited about this. So let's check her out. We have a 2-inch Compass Games box. We have designer John Edwards, project director John Krantz, project lead Bob Cloyd, game artist Bruce Yerian, and box cover by Bruce Yerian and Brian Miller. Solitaire suitability high. I think that's probably a double-handed solitaire, which sounds about right to me. Certainly, there's like no hidden information in this thing. So let's see what we get here. The box is pleasingly heavy, so there might be a mounted map. Oh yeah, there is a mounted map. I could have looked on the box and it would have told me there's a mounted map. All right, box is tight. Okay, we have 2 6-sided dice. We have a couple of baggies. This is not a game that you're going to have to bend over backwards to store. So 2 baggies might seem like not very much, but for this game, it's really kind of fine. Wow. So, I mean, there's a major difference between expectations and Hex and Counter war games today versus 1974, and you can really feel it in this 12-page rule book. It's very light. We have here matte finish, satin finish, I'd say. Large-ish print, 12 pages, full color, of course. That's the expectation now. Game does not have a full color rule book. To a lot of folks, it feels cheap. This has a nice full color rule book. Here's a timeline of when the various benchmarks of the Russian campaign occurred. That's actually really nice to have. For those of us who are a little, and hell, I'm not that familiar with some of this material, so I could point out a couple of these highlights, I'm sure, but not all of them. It's nice to have this so you can say as a player, hey, I'm nowhere near Stalingrad, it's 1943. I'm hosed, as the Germans, for example. So it's nice to see that. So what else we have here is what looks like 1 counter sheet of looks like half-inch counters, which is, let me hasten to add, absolutely fine by me. These are not super-duper info-dense counters, right? I mean, you pretty much got an attack factor, a defense factor, a unit type. They're unit designations that I'm not sure mean very much. Otherwise, it looks like you've got most of a 280-sheet counter sheet here. Counters are on a thick brown core stock. Quite thick brown core stock, so they feel good. Some of the there's been a couple of recent Compass games with really thick counters, like they were so thick that I had a hard time clipping them. I'm thinking these will be fine, just based on how they feel to me right this minute. And the board, and I think what is probably a really good idea, is shrink wrapped. So let's open that up. This way the board won't get banged up in transit, Ooh. And I say, ooh. Ah! Oh! Wow! Okay, hold on. There's extra stuff bundled in here, too. There's more material that we didn't even know was going to be here. Alright, so we have a player aid with a terrain effects chart, guide to unit types, a Stuka table, and on the other side of that we have weather, CRT, movement, sequence of play. This is a very straightforward game system. So veterans of more modern / more complicated games, and I mean the same thing there, are going to find this to be very easy to play. It's not necessarily super quick based on experience with the Avalon Hill version, but it is, you could play it in a long sitting. Here is a clarifications sheet along with some corrections. So that's a 1-page, 1 side of some clarifications. So we get some clarifications here and a few corrections down here. We have a setup card, which is always a nice touch. This actually gives you, looks like the entire setup for the initial 1941 setup. So you got Army Group Center, Army Group South, Army Group North. You have the Soviet military districts. The Soviet units are armies, and the German units are corps at this scale. That sounds approximately correct as well. So for those who are familiar with, say, A World in Flames, this is pretty much the same scale as World in Flames. The very common technique in war games of saying the Soviet units are larger units, even though the factor range is roughly the same, actually has precedent in the actual orders of battle themselves. A Soviet corps was about as many men as a German division, for example. So the Soviet divisions were like extra small, and sometimes corps were put directly together from brigades too. So it's not just that there's hordes and hordes and hordes of Russians, as I thought for some years. Just there's tons of Russians, right? So the Russians are armies and the Germans are corps. No, it's that the Russians are armies, but their armies are a lot smaller. All right, and then we have the map board, which is shrink wrapped inside the shrink wrap, so it is like extra protected. Again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'd rather just as soon have, extra protection for this stuff that may have been rattling around the box on its long way from wherever it came from, right? So, feels good. Ooh, looks like we have some other nice touches on the board here. I'm going to set this, I'll pull everything else off the table, and I'll set this map board up so you can have a look at least a good chunk of it. Okay, so here is the Russian campaign map, and there's a couple things that you'll notice. First of all, the map is oriented in such a way that you have east on one long edge and west on the other long edge, which makes sense if you think about the player orientation, because the Germans are going to be coming in from here, and the Soviets are going to be pushing back in from there. That all makes sense. Another thing that you might be able to see in the frame is that the map is doing very little pooching, and what pooching it is doing because it is not on a 100% flat surface, because I've got that mat underneath it. So the pooching is very, very small. It's laying flatter than some other mounted maps that I've seen. What you probably can't see because they're on the edges is that there are reinforcement schedules for both the Germans and the Soviets. Let me rotate this. For everything coming in through 1945, it looks like. So that's also fantastic. That means you could set all that up in advance and then not have to fish around in the counter tray looking for this stuff. This game will, I'll show you actually. Here is the box bottom. Here is the board. We'll pull these out. You're comfortably going to be able to fit a counter tray in there, which will be more than enough space to organize a one counter sheet game, and dice and all that other stuff. So, and box is pretty thick too, by the way. So, a classic, long-awaited classic returns in this new edition of the Jedco 1974 Russian campaign from Compass Games and designer John Edwards. Thanks very much to Compass Games for sending me a copy of this. It is a welcome arrival here at Ardwulf's Lair. Hopefully you have found this video useful. If so, please do give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to help support the channel, please do check out the links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and happy wargaming.